Hi guys, welcome to another historical story of Wookey Hole Caves. My name is Neil. We're going to go in here in a moment, but before we do that, the last few months I've been looking into some paintings. We have some paintings in the mill. They are scenes of the cave, and through researching these paintings, using the help of specialists and auction houses and archives, the paintings are original. These paintings made in 1928 and 1931. Now the paintings, as I say, painted by an artist called John Hassel. Now Hassel was down here in the early 1900s, and he also worked here with a photographer called Harry Savory. Harry Savory came from Bristol. His father had a printing business in Queen Street, and he came down to the cave, taking again photographs underground, and he was considered the photographer of his day. Now with those two people and the local archaeologist Herbert Balch, between the three of them, they would help each other in producing books. So Balch's book, Wookey Hole, Its Caves and Cave Dwellers, published in 1914, is published by Harry Savory's father in Bristol, but the photographs and the artwork come from Harry Savory and also from John Hassel. So the picture behind me here, the view you can see of the river coming out of the caves, this was painted in 1928. It was painted along with a painting of the grotto, the new grotto as it's called, in the cave, and the purpose was for advertising. So Gerald Hodgkinson, he commissioned these paintings to be used for postcards, in literature, in advertising the caves, as they'd only opened the year before in 1927. A few years later, in 1931, this scene was painted along with a few other scenes in the caves, and again it was for advertising. It was advertising an exhibition in Bath in 1932 to promote Wookey Hole as a new tourist attraction. Now today we are going to go into the caves, and we'll go into the entranceway at the top over here on the right, but we're going to go back to some of the places, some of those points that Hassel and also Harry Savory painted or took photographs, and try and recreate some of the views and see how things have changed in the last 100 years. Right guys, okay, so the first one we're going to have a look at is what is called the spur and wedge, and this photograph was taken by Harry Savory in 1913. To get to it, just behind me here is the modern hell ladder, part of the show cave. So when you do visit these caves, actually you are walking past the bottom of what was the original way down into the cave. So I'm just going to make my way up into the first bit. It's a bit low here. Okay, so we just come around the corner at the bottom of Hell Ladder. Going to make our way up through these rocks here, and should find above here the spur and wedge. Right, okay, so I've just made my way up from down here on my left, and straight over here to my right, you can see the spur and wedge. As I say, I'm going to climb up in a moment and get to the same sort of sitting position that the photograph from 1913 is taken. The other thing just to mention though, if you have seen one of our earlier films, the rescue of the boys, 3 schoolboys back in 1892, again this is exactly where those boys were sitting for those 8 hours before they got rescued back in December 1892. So in the photograph, obviously Harry Savory must have been standing over here on my left to be able to be looking in this direction. So as I say, what I'll do now is I'll just climb up over here and try and see if I can sort of recreate the photograph that he took. Okay, I'll just climb up over here now. Okay, so yep, here we are, sitting as John Hassel was seen in the photograph, back against the spur and wedge. This part of the cave, actually, when I'm looking down here on my left, I can see the goat herd, the part of the cave that visitors make their way in the present day show cave. But yeah, this is the point where that photograph was taken. Okay, so I've left the Hell's Ladder behind me, and I'm now just walked down into what is the first chamber called the Witch's Kitchen, and I'm going to show you 3 views of this chamber that John Hassel painted in 1931. The reason for the paintings was as advertising, so posters, postcards, that kind of thing. So the first view, right behind me, looking down there, you should see the dark silhouette of the Wookey Hole. There's the profile of a head looking out towards the River Axe. The second view you took from down the bottom of the chamber. If you've been here before, just point out you have the witch's dog just over here, sitting quietly. and the river in front of you. Now, Hassel's second painting was literally taken somewhere near to where I'm standing, looking down with the view of the river axe leaving the chamber. This river's starting 3 miles away, but this is literally where the river leaves the caves for good. And the third one is across the other side. Okay, so we've taken the boat across the river axe to the side here, and looking behind over my shoulders, you can probably see the beach and the witch over there. In the painting by John Hassel, there's a figure with a cloth cap standing somewhere just in front of the witch over there. Okay, now just before we go back into the boat, to get back to the other side of the reverse chamber, just over here, this corner over here, there's a cave over here called Chapel's Chamber, and there's a rope hanging this up here. And this rope dates from the 1930s, when the first investigations, excavations of this part of the cave were made. You can see the rope just hanging, just over here on the right. Very different chamber. If you look around, you can see the river just leaving over here on the left. You can see it on the right on it for you, and that's leaving the cave, heading out into the valley outside. Okay, we're going to jump back in the boat and make our way back to the other side of the river. Okay, so we're in the boat. We're going to cross back over to the other side of Witch's Kitchen, sitting in a boat. And Becca, what we're doing?
We are crossing the river to the other side of Chamber 1, where if you're doing Wild Wookey, this is how we're going to exit the cave in a far more exciting way than just simply walking out of the cave. Nice one.
Okay, here's a bit of a view as we're coming into the beach on the other side of the river. Okay, so I'm now standing in what is called the Great Hall. The old name was actually the Hall of Wookey, and Hassel's painting from 1931 is of a view looking down here towards Chamber 3. The one thing about this particular picture, though, is that this painting could have been done because of one painting that wasn't liked by the owners of the caves. Now, Gerald Hodgkinson, the owner, had received 3 paintings of Chamber 1. He'd also received a painting of what was called the Inner Grotto, and he didn't like the Inner Grotto very much. He thought it was perhaps not useful for postcards or posters. So there's no talk about a Chamber 2 from Hassel. So I'm thinking that this view that Hassel painted was as a replacement for that picture that wasn't used. Okay, so standing at the top of the steps again, back in the witch's kitchen. There's the witch down behind me. If you've been here before, you might be wondering what is up these steps over here in the darkness. Well, this goes to a place called the New Grotto. It was called the New Grotto actually back in 1927, so it's kind of an old New Grotto. Originally, this was all rock. Okay, so to get to where we're going to go, you'd climbed up over here, and it was discovered in 1903. And at the top of the steps here, I can actually show you where the 2 guys found their way through into the roof behind. Okay, so just come up to the top of the steps here, and just here, just over here on my left, this is kind of an archway. I think it was called the rabbit hole, they described it as. That's what they dug out, and that's what they got through and discovered the rift in behind and the formations that we're going to see just through here. And this archway, this is part of what was dug out. The whole thing took a few months to dig from down in Chamber 1, and if I come underneath the archway here, this actually then takes you into what it was a natural rift. Okay, so now making my way up the steps. So these are the steps that were cut out late 1920s to get visitors to have a look at what they call the New Grotto. So the New Grotto is right over here. A whole series of stalagmites, stalactites, and in 1933, a guide, whoever he was back in the day looking after this area, was suddenly aware that someone visiting the cave had actually done some damage to the cave, and actually some of these little ones over here are broken, and the actual caves put a reward out of £20 in 1933 to see if they could track down who had come in here and snapped off one of their stalagmites. They never found the person. Okay, so yeah, sitting in the top of the New Grotto. The next part we're going to be crawling through. I can't see where I'm going, it's over darkness over here. We're going to go towards what is called the Grill. That's a series of columns. And then after that, we go into what is called Flat World. The original name from the 1920s or before was actually called Purgatory, but that's the next part we'll see around the corner in just a few minutes' time. Right, as you can see, there's one column straight here in front of me, and the way to grill is actually down through here. I'm here with Becca from Wild Wookey, so she's going to head on down through, and I'm going to follow her through after this bit here, but this is the route down through to the grill. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to video as I'm going down through the same part. Down through here, you can see. Gets a lot lower down here.
Hi.
And ahead of us, not too far away, is the first piece, which is called the grill, a big series of columns and stalactites and stalagmites. Right, here we are. This is the grill. I'm going to just go pan around with the camera, and you can see there's loads and loads of the columns, a few pieces of curtain stalactite. Becca's right back there. That bit where she is, the gap is the gap that you can get through that gets you through to the next part, which is the Flat World, or Purgatory as it was known back in the early 1900s. And equipped with a tape measure there, she can actually tell you how high it is from the floor to the roof. And it was 12 inches, 31 centimetres back to where she is. So the photograph that we have showing you was taken in 1912. So this is where Harry Savory would have come in with a guy, I think it was called John Allen. So imagine bringing in all that camera equipment back in the day, the big cameras, tripods, things to light the cave up. All this had to be brought in to what is a very, very small space to get the picture that he took of the grill. Right, I'm going to make my way forward now through the same place where Becca is, and then we'll head on through into the next bit, which is the Flat World part. Right, attempting to do video through into Flat World. Gap here between the formations. Into a slightly bigger space here, and then you have, from what I remember, a bit of a hole here. Here we go. So we've got a bit of a climb now. I have to climb up here. Okay, so from down below, we've climbed up from down here. There you go. That's the hole we came through down the bottom. Climbed up this piece here. Quite a bit of flowstone. And then you have a similar sort of thing, quite a low roof. The edge of the chamber we're in is over on the far side from where I'm sitting. And then on this side, see, it carries on round here and goes on down through here. So we're going to have a look down the corner, see what's around the corner. Right, okay, so we're in another part of Flat World or Purgatory. Now, back in Bolcher's book, Wookey Hole, It's Caves and Cave Dwellers, there is a photograph of a man in a cloth cap crawling through this space. So obviously back in the day when they were in here, bringing in these great big heavy cameras and things to light the cave, a completely different thing for what we have today. Again, look, you can see here the sort of the height of where the cave is, with Becca there just in front of me. And it does carry on. I mean, it's impossible to tell from down here, just actually in parts, how far this carries on. You just have no idea and let's just keep going and going. Okay, so moved about 10 metres from where we were just now. Looking at it, it's like what we're sitting on is kind of a mix of mud and stones, and over this side you can actually see what looks like the side. You can't in front, and then over on the left you can't really see it. Kind of like looks like it slopes off down, but it doesn't look like there's a wall there, so it might go on further than what we're looking at. Whether this at one time was a lot of sediment that washed down through when the river made its way down through and then headed out into the valley, but it's a bit strange looking. But I'm going to make a bit further, just towards that end bit there, and see what is at the end of this piece in the picture here now. Right, okay, so here we are. Yeah, this is about as far as we're going to go, I think, because it does, you can see it looks quite small here. Really weird, it's like really spongy, kind of soft, sort of sandy silt, and it's on the top above my head as well. But yeah, you can see there's Becca almost wedged at the end, and if I bring the camera around this way, you can see here, round, back from where we came from just now. Right, okay, so yeah, this is as far as I can go. You can't probably see behind me, but there's no space behind me that I can get through down there, and if I did, I would never probably get back out again. So this is as far as we can go down into Flat World, Purgatory, whatever they want to call it, years and years ago. We're going to head back opposite direction, get us back to the grill, and then get back out into the witch's kitchen, which shouldn't be too far from here.